Welcome to the Conscious Kinky Podcast, where we explore sexuality, connection, and power through awareness and intentional choice.
At the Kink Collective, we help people reframe their relationship with sexuality, build deeper connections, and become safe spaces in the world.
Each episode invites reflection, not performance.
And the conversation continues inside Conscious Conversations, our live community space. Welcome to the conversation.
What if the moment someone gives you feedback is not the moment you're being attacked?
What if it's actually the moment the relationship is asking, can we tell the truth here? Can we stay connected through discomfort? And can this be repaired?
Because feedback can feel like rejection, and it has for me years ago. It can feel like judgment. It can feel like someone saying you're bad or you failed. And I've felt that before. Or you're not who you think you are.
Sometimes feedback, though, is not a threat. Sometimes feedback is an invitation. It's an invitation to understand your impact, an invitation to repair trust, and an invitation to become safer to be honest with. Welcome to the Conscious Kinky Podcast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Joshua.
This podcast exists to help people understand themselves more clearly, relate more honestly, and stop repeating patterns that they don't fully understand yet.
This month, we're in month 8. The theme for the month is impact. How we affect people, how people experience us, and what changes when we stop measuring ourselves only by what we meant.
In episode 1, we talked about intention versus impact, where what you meant is not always what the other person felt.
In episode 2, we talked about the energy we bring into the room, what people feel from us before we even explain ourselves.
And today we're going into one of the most important parts of this entire month, feedback, defensiveness, and repair.
Because becoming aware of your impact is one thing, but being able to hear it from someone else without giving in, without breaking down, without attacking, without explaining, or disappearing, or defending, that's a whole nother level of maturity.
But that's where trust is either deepened or damaged further.
Yeah. The theme for month 8 is this: your intentions matter, but your impact teaches the truth.
And this week we're asking, can I stay open when someone tells me the truth about how I affected them?
That's a real question. So, a lot of people say, I want honesty, I want communication. You can tell me anything. I want to know how you feel.
But then when honesty comes, when someone actually says that hurt, that felt dismissive, that felt pressuring, or they say I didn't feel safe or I didn't feel heard, or even I need something different from you, the body reacts.
We make this fun because this is what we've experienced just in our own relationship. Again, anything you ever hear us talk about isn't coming from like the top down. Like it's coming from our lived experiences. So we really mean this stuff. Like this stuff, we've walked through this, and it's been some of the most important work that we've done.
Yeah.
That I've done. That's for sure.
The laughing is just feeling called out.
Yeah. And suddenly the person who said they wanted honesty is defending themselves, is explaining, is shutting down, or over apologizing, or getting sharp, or turning the conversation around, or making the other person take care of them.
And that matters because if people learn that telling you the truth costs them too much, they may stop telling you the truth.
Yeah. And when truth disappears from a relationship, connection starts becoming performance.
So today's episode is about learning how to receive feedback without turning it into a crisis, how to notice defensiveness without becoming it, and how to repair in a way that actually rebuilds trust.
I can think of many times where someone brought something to me, something about how I spoke, how I led, how I handled something, how my energy landed. And my first internal response wasn't openness, it was defensiveness. And I might not have shown it immediately, but inside something tightened. My mind started building a case. That's not what I meant. That's not fair. Don't they understand my full context? But I was just doing the best I could. They're missing all the things I did right.
That's so real. Because defensiveness often starts before we say anything. It starts in the body. The chest tightens, the jaw sets, the breath changes, it usually becomes shallow, and the mind starts preparing evidence.
Exactly. The hardest part was realizing even if I had context, even if I had a reason, even if I meant well, that did not mean I was listening.
That's such a big distinction. You can have an explanation and still not be listening.
Yeah. And the work became learning to pause long enough to ask, can I hear this person before I defend myself? Can I understand how this landed before I explain where I was coming from? Can I stay grounded while someone names my impact?
I've had versions of this too.
One second, Mama. Let me fix this because I don't like where it's just sitting in your throat. So, how can I adjust this so that it's let's try that. All right.
So I've had versions of this too, where feedback touched a tender place in my identity, especially if I thought I was being thoughtful, or I was being helpful, or I was being clear. Then hearing that it didn't land that way would feel like someone saying, well, you're not as aware as you think you are. You're not as caring as you think, or you missed something.
And that shit can feel very exposing.
It can. And when I'm not careful, I want to explain myself so that they still see me the way that I want to be seen. But that's not the same as repair. That's image management.
That's the line. Repair is about restoring trust. Image management is about restoring how I want to be seen.
And those things are really different.
Very different. Very different. So let's talk about why feedback feels like a threat. Because often feedback touches on identity.
If I identify as caring and someone says that they felt dismissive, that can feel threatening.
If I identify as safe and someone says they didn't feel safe with me, that can feel threatening.
If I identify as honest and someone says that I wasn't clear, that can also feel threatening.
If I identify as conscious, grounded, loving, mature, responsible, or self-aware, feedback can feel like it's attack the identity I've worked so hard to build.
And that's why people defend. Not always because they don't care, but because they care so much about being seen in a certain way that anything challenging that image feels dangerous.
Now here's the problem with that. If your identity cannot survive feedback, your relationships will not feel safe telling you the truth.
That's so real. People need to know they can bring you something difficult without you making it be about whether you are good or bad.
Feedback is not always a verdict either. Sometimes it's information. Sometimes it's an attempt at repair. Sometimes it's someone trying to stay connected instead of quietly leaving.
That's a reframe. Sometimes feedback is not the person pulling away. Sometimes feedback is the person trying to stay.
Well, what can that look like?
Well, let's name what defensiveness can look like, because it's not always obvious.
Defensiveness can look like explaining. Immediately saying, that's not what I meant. Let me tell you why I did that. Or you're misunderstanding.
And it can look like counterattacking. You might say, well, you did this too, or you always do that, or what about your part?
It can look like collapse or giving in on yourself. I'm terrible. I can't do anything right. I guess I'm just the problem. I've been there a lot.
And collapse can seem like accountability, but sometimes it pulls the other person away from their experience and into taking care of you. Ouch.
Defensiveness can look like over-apologizing, saying sorry over and over again, but not actually slowing down enough to understand the impact.
It can also look like intellectualizing, explaining the psychology, explaining the pattern and the context, explaining the nervous system, but never actually saying, I understand how that affected you.
It can also look like disappearing. I'm guilty of that for sure. Going silent, withdrawing, avoiding the person, not returning to the conversation.
It can look like minimizing. I don't think it was that big of a deal. That's not what really happened. Or you're just being sensitive.
It can look like making the conversation about intention again. I didn't mean to. I was trying to help. My heart was in the right place.
And again, intention matters. But if you use intention to block understanding the impact that you're having, you're not repairing, you're defending.
Yeah. So let's define what repair is. Because repair is not just saying sorry.
Repair is the process of restoring trust after impact.
It can include an apology, but apology alone is not always repair.
Repair asks, do I understand what happened? Do I understand how it landed? Can I acknowledge the impact? Can I take responsibility for my part? Can I make a change that matters?
A repair might sound, I hear my tone felt dismissive. I understand that I moved too quickly. I can see how that created pressure. I didn't realize that was the impact, but I want to understand it. I'm sorry. And here's what I will practice differently.
And that last part matters because repair without change becomes performance.
Yeah. If the same things keep happening and the only response is another apology, eventually the apology stops feeling like repair.
Repair requires follow-through, not perfection, but follow-through.
Repair says, I'm willing to let your experience change how I move.
And that's where trust rebuilds.
So what's the difference between being called out versus being called in?
Well, sometimes people confuse feedback with attack because they've only experienced correction through shame.
That's real. A lot of people learn feedback as punishment, criticism, humiliation, withdrawal of love, a threat to belonging.
So when someone brings something honest, the body may react as if danger is happening, even if the person is trying to connect.
That's why slowing down matters, because not all feedback is the same.
There's a difference between being called out and being called in. Being called out may feel public, punitive, or exposing, but being called in often says, I want us to do better. I want to stay in relationship. I want this to be more honest, and I want this impact to be seen.
But even being called in can feel hard because it still asks us to look.
And if we can only receive feedback when it's perfectly worded, perfectly timed, perfectly gentle, perfectly comfortable, then we may not be as available for accountability as we think.
That doesn't mean people get to be cruel with feedback, because the container still matters, the connection still matters, the tone and the care, that still matters. But we also have to build the capacity to hear truth without needing it to arrive perfectly. So let's step into the frameworks that we have here at Kink Collective. Not by repeating definitions, but by using them, we're going to apply the frameworks. The first one is ICAVS. It starts with I, introspection. And introspection asks, what happens inside of me when feedback lands? Do I tighten? Do I defend? Do I collapse and break down on myself, or do I go blank? Do I get angry, or do I feel misunderstood? Do I feel exposed?
And then it asks, what part of my identity feels threatened right now? What am I trying to protect? What do I want them to understand about me before I understand them?
And that's the pause. Because if you can notice defensiveness internally, you do not have to let it drive the conversation. Next is C for container.
So container asks, can we slow down the conversation enough to stay responsible?
Feedback conversations need structure. They need pacing, they need consent, they need breath. They need enough room for people to stay present.
Container might sound like, I want to hear you, and I notice I'm getting defensive, let me slow down. Or I need a moment, but I'm not leaving the conversation. Or can you help me understand what landed that way? Or I want to respond carefully instead of reacting.
A container protects the conversation from becoming a fight. It creates enough structure for truth to land. Next is A for authenticity. Authenticity asks, can I tell the truth without hiding behind the excuses?
That might mean saying, I can feel myself wanting to defend. I want you to see my intention, but I also want to understand your experience. I'm uncomfortable, but I'm still listening. Or I need a moment to take that in.
Authenticity is not pretending you're calm, pretending you're not affected, pretending to instantly understand.
It's being honest and responsible at the same time. So V is for vulnerability. Vulnerability asks, can I be affected without becoming unsafe?
And that's a powerful question. Can I feel shame without collapsing? Can I feel misunderstood without attacking? Can I feel exposed without disappearing? Can I feel discomfort without turning the conversation into my pain?
Vulnerability here means allowing yourself to be impacted by someone else's truth, not controlled by it, nor destroyed by it, but just impacted.
That's how feedback becomes relational instead of adversarial. And next is safety. And safety asks, can I create enough safety for someone to be honest with me?
Yeah. What that means is I won't punish you for telling me the truth. I won't make you take care of me for you naming your experience. I won't use my intention to erase your impact, nor will I disappear simply because this is uncomfortable.
Safety in this episode means feedback can enter the room and the relationship does not have to break down.
And that is relational maturity. So let's look at feedback and repair through the lens of miss. Because feedback changes how we meet, invest, share information, and share experience, right? So M is for meet. At the meet stage, feedback asks, can I meet what is being said without turning it into a fight?
Can I meet the person's actual experience, not the version I wish they had, not the version that protects my image, but the actual experience they're trying to bring to me?
Sometimes repair starts with simply meeting the truth without pushing it away. So I is for invest.
At the invest stage, feedback reveals whether we've built enough trust for honesty to happen. Have I invested in being someone people can tell the truth to? Have I shown them over time that I can listen? Have I shown that I can adjust? Have I shown that the repair is possible with me?
Because people don't usually decide whether you are safe from one statement, right? They decide from patterns, how you respond over time, watching how you recover, watching how or if you repair, and how you follow through. S for shared information. At the shared information stage, feedback asks, can I receive information without interrogating, correcting, or defending?
Can I ask, can you help me understand? What part felt most difficult? What did you need from me that you didn't receive? What would repair look like here?
Those questions create clarity, but only if they're asked with care, not as a cross-examination. The tone here is what makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Those second S is for shared experience.
At the shared experience stage, repair becomes part of the shared experience, not the end of the connection, not proof that the connection failed, but part of the connection.
Because every real relationship will eventually require repair, whether it's friendship, family, community, partnership, leadership experiences. Every meaningful connection will eventually face impact.
So the question is not, will something ever go wrong? Because it will. I like trying to manage things to make sure things don't ever go wrong. That's where the problems lie. The question is, when it breaks down, can we repair it? When it happens, because it's going to happen. Now let's transition to practice. I'm going to bring this back to you. To you. Because every one of us has defensive patterns. Every one of us has a place where feedback lands hard. Every one of us has that part that wants to be understood before it listens.
These questions are not meant to shame you. They're meant to reveal your repair edge, where you can become more grounded, more honest, more trustworthy with the truth.
So with that, Take your time, get settled in. Pause here if you need to run to the restroom, grab some water. Actually, I need to grab some more water. And bring it all into your journal. And then with your journal, bring it to Conscious Conversations on Tuesday. And notice not just what you think your answer is, but what your body does as you answer. So explain the process, Mama.
So we're gonna, for the first set of questions, take about 3 minutes per question. The goal is not to judge your defensiveness. The goal is to recognize it clearly enough to work with it. So before we give our answers to the questions, we're gonna give the questions, pause the video, and then give your answers. Take about 3 minutes to answer them, and then come back and listen to the tape some more. And do that with each question. Give yourself a good 3 minutes to answer the question however you would answer the question, and then you can listen to our answers. Then in a couple of days, come back and see if your answers in any way deepen or change.
I should have got the water, but I got the Red Bull. We're not sponsored by these guys, but this is a pretty good flavor. Shiitake lime. You want to taste it, Mama?
Sure.
So question number 1. What is my first internal reaction when someone gives me feedback? Do I feel attacked? Do I feel ashamed? Do I feel misunderstood or curious? Exposed or angry? Do I feel small? What happens inside before I respond?
I have had almost all of those reactions at one time or another. The thing I keep cringing about is when I was younger, if someone gave me feedback that made me understand that what I had said or done had landed differently than how I intended. That's the truth of it. But how I experienced it was that I had done something terrible, that I had done them a terrible wrong, that I was wrong, I was bad, I would totally cave in on myself. But what I didn't realize is that it had the effect of turning the person into the person who then had to care for me. So they went from the person being impacted or being the party who needed to be able to communicate something honestly to having to defend and support me while I'm having a breakdown around it. And when I look back on it, it really makes me very cringy.
It's funny. I come to the way we work together, right? When I have an idea, when I put something out, and either you or Natalie come back with a suggestion or with feedback. And it's like, out of all of these, the word came up. It's like, I feel exposed. I feel like I did something wrong, or like it wasn't, like it was the worst possible suggestion. And it's like, you're wrong. Here's something better. And that's what I hear in my mind. But it's like, what you guys bring to me is generally a path of least resistance, something in more detail, something with greater impact, with less output, right? It's like, but I feel like I'm wrong when I get feedback like I did something wrong, or it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I can really relate to that.
And I think I've hit all of these too at some point, right? But that's what happens inside before I respond. Like my walls go up, because it's like, what else do I not have in place?
Yeah.
All right, question number 2. What defensive pattern do I use most often? Explaining, shut down, counterattacking, over-apologizing, intellectualizing, disappearing, blaming context, or trying to prove I'm good. So what I want to also do is I want to make sure I'm answering from today and not from who I was, right? Because if I were to go back to number 1, it still happens, right? My initial thing, but I'm hyper aware of it now.
Right.
That I'm not receiving impact well enough, feedback well enough to feel proud of myself, right? Because what's happening is I receive the feedback and then I'll stand to my side and I'll observe it all happening to me, and I'm like, dude, chill out. But it's like I couldn't, and now I move my way in there a little easier. But what I still find myself doing is explaining. I think that's the defensive pattern I use most often, is explaining. This is why I did it.
Yeah. You make a good point about the difference between answering from the standpoint of who I was as opposed to answering from the standpoint of who I am today. Because sometimes it's easier for me to go back and then see the through line to where I am today. Like, I know that shutting down is something that I've used and that I do still use sometimes, although I think it manifests differently. Over apologizing, I still catch myself over apologizing when I feel like I've done wrong or bad. I don't think I intellectualize as much as I used to. So that I don't do as much anymore. And I think internally there's still a part of me that wants to try to prove that I'm good. I don't know if that actually escapes me and comes out of me, but I know that internally there's a part of me that wants to try to prove that I'm good.
There was a time I got called in by Lace months ago, more than months ago. And they're trying to prove, when she did it, that was like my best performance ever. Not performance, but my best response ever. Essentially, I celebrated some information too soon, and she wasn't ready for it. And she pulled me aside a day or two later and said, hey, listen, this X, Y, and Z. When she did it, though, and this is why I have to say, and this is for you guys too, check in with yourself with who you are, because the way I responded to that was, I was like, well, sit down, let's talk about it. I said, tell me. And she put it on the table, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I took it in. I saw what she did. I acknowledged what I did. I apologized for what I did because I saw what it was. And even though I was super proud of her, I was excited for her, I was trying to hype her up and shit like that, I was celebrating her news before she was ready to celebrate it. And that was like my best process, I think. I'm sure there's others, but this is the one that comes to the forefront. I mean, even with you guys, like it's the closer a person is, the harder it is. And Lace is close to me, so it's like you guys are almost there. You guys are almost getting that point of me.
Thanks, boss.
No, but it's like I want to give us the credit too, because we've been at this type of work for 8 years, and we're not where we were, right? We've made the changes. So being able to answer from where we're at because we've made the put in the effort, I can't beat myself up for who I was.
Right. No, that's fair. And you're right. We have done a lot of work around, because based on both of our defendedness, there was a period of time where it was hard to tell the truth. It was hard to show up and give feedback if the feedback wasn't going to land well. And I think we've moved to a better place around all that. I mean, it's still something to navigate, but it's not like what it used to be. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I was just thinking about something in the past. A fish in the microwave.
Oh.
Mama, can I call you in for a moment? Just kidding. It's. I love you, Mama.
I love you too.
It was just so funny. It was just so funny.
Know.
I love you. That's always.
Now they all want to know what that was about. Everybody's like, what did he say?
All right, question number 3. But because the last one, trying to prove I'm good, is what pops up, right? It's like, but I'm not trying to hurt, I'm not trying to harm, I'm not trying to offend. And it's like, but this is what happened.
Right.
All right. Number 3, where do I confuse being called in with being rejected? Where does feedback feel like abandonment? Where does it feel like punishment? Where is it proof that I failed, or proof that I'm not safe or good enough?
It can be any of those things, depending on the space that I'm in. Because I relate to what you just said. Like, there are times now where I think I do really well. Like, when someone wants to give me feedback, I'm able to handle it. I'm able to hear it. I'm able to understand that, like, there's nothing wrong with me, that they're just letting me know that what I said or did didn't land in a particular kind of way. And that's okay. And the feedback is helpful because I can adjust my behavior going forward, and I can learn about myself, and I can see how I can be different going forward. It feels like abandonment or punishment or proof that I failed when I'm taken off guard by it, when I'm distracted, when I'm not in my best self, when something else is going on that my ability to do these things gets compromised. If I'm super tired, if I'm already distracted, or if I'm already coming up out of a trigger from something else, from a period of activation, and someone goes to give it to me and I'm still not entirely regulated, then I have a greater likelihood of feeling like it's abandonment or punishment or somebody trying to prove that I'm not good enough.
Where do I confuse being called in with being rejected? I'd have to think about that. Because the truth of the matter is, not a lot of people call in. Not a lot of people have the either the desire, the willingness, the courage, the motivation, the ability, whatever it is, to address conflict. Right? So I think at this point where I'm at, the people who do call me in, I don't feel rejected by, because they're the ones who are willing to do the calling in. Right? To say, Joshua, let's have a talk.
As long as we have it right now.
As long as we have it right now. Don't tell me we need to talk at 6 o'clock and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. That's a whole different beast. But it's because there are people who do try to reject through dismissing, right? And I've had my fair share of conversations around that. The intention wasn't to call in. The intention was to address an issue and then rejection. Right? And I highlight that because of the cancel culture process that I went through. There weren't people who were looking to get information. There were people who were looking to disconnect because they weren't willing to get the information. They weren't willing to gather the stuff that would have warranted a call in. So instead, it was a rejection, and that's my thing around a lot of this stuff here is these are adults having adult conversations. Like, calling in is a mature thing. It's not an emotionally immature thing.
Right. It says, I care about you. My connection with you matters. And I'm doing this for the betterment of you, me, and our connection. It's not the right thing to do. Right. It's like not me trying to run you down because I want to disconnect and make you wrong, which is where you would easily feel judged or punished or whatever. Because
that's the thing. If a person's calling you in, that is the opposite of rejection.
Yeah.
Because the rejection, they never pick up the call. Right. They never pick up the phone, right? So be mindful of that. That if a person is calling me, for the most part, it's because they have the interest in getting this information. But then tone matters too, right? Yeah. I had a phone call with someone a month and a half ago, a prominent event promoter here in the city, and they were actually working with Dan, and they heard Master Joshua, the Big Bad Wolf, through community politics and all that shit. But they never had the courage to ask, well, what happened? They were like, well, if Tess said so, then like they're the DMV of the community. And they told me that shit. Tess is the DMV of the community, so if they said it, then they must be right. And I'm like, how does that, like, where are we going with this conversation? Well, I wanted to hear your side because they got called out on the integrity part of this process. And what I realized while I was on the phone is like, this isn't a call-in. They're not asking for clarification. They're not looking to see if there's anything that I can, like, they came in with prejudgment. And that's different, right? And it's irresponsible when you're dealing with people who are looking to right wrongs, who are looking to get back into alignment, with the order of things. And this is not just me, because in that situation, in that conversation, I was able to address the things and the things they were overlooking. But what about the people who can't do that? Right? What about the people who are out of alignment, and all they're trying to do is get back into alignment, but the person on the other side of it isn't, their intention isn't the same, right? So it's like, it can make these processes more difficult. So how do I differentiate being called in versus being rejected? I guess that's a whole different discussion. But I really think in the last quite a few years now, being called in, it's been nothing but full of gratitude for me to be able to address and adjust my actions, because I've not always hit the marker, right? I mean, coming back to that lace story, I mean, I was loud and proud for her, but it was too much too soon. And that's what she was able to come in. And did I feel like I failed? A little bit. I felt disappointed in myself. But a lot of that came back into me, and to think, what do I need to change?
Right. But you didn't let it drive the conversation.
But I didn't let it drive the conversation.
Right.
Right. So intention, the tone of that conversation matters as well. Right. So there's a lot, in order to keep it, again, the intention and the impact. Right. Let's say someone came to call in, and that's the intention, but they came in with this huge energy and this huge tone of punitive tone. It was like, well, the impact's not going to be the same.
And that's the difference between that person's intention and the impact,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, right. So, yeah, it was stuff that I had to sit with when I got called in by Lace, and I was really happy. I was proud that she did it, because to call in someone that I care about is not always easy either. And on the other side of it is a type of not only repair in the relationship, but reinvestment into the relationship, where we get to readdress, renegotiate our new agreement, right? It's like, that's the point of, that's covenant. It's like, this happened, we need to fix it. This is my promise on how I'm going to move forward with you. And it's like, that's the process. And this book, man. All right, sorry. That was a long-winded answer for a yes question. All right, question number 4. What kind of feedback is hardest for me to receive? Feedback about tone, inconsistency, emotional availability, power, care, communication, boundaries, impact. What kind of truth feels the hardest to hear?
For me, I actually think it's impact, right? It's hearing that for whatever I intended, that's not how it landed. And whether that feedback is someone reflecting back to me that I was inconsistent, or that they didn't feel like I was emotionally available, or that it was a power thing, whatever these other things are in this list, the end result is, the feedback is, I didn't come across the way I intended. And that's the part that's the hardest, because I have to step back and say, how you receive me is as valuable as what I intended. And that I have to put aside my defensiveness, my wanting to insist that, no, but that's not what I meant, and all of the stuff we've been talking about. I have to put all that down so that I can hear you say, this is how it felt for me when you did X, Y, and Z, or when you said whatever you said, and that I can hold and value their reaction to what I did or said, and hold it as valuable, as equally as valuable as I feel like my intention was.
Yeah, as I think about this, what kind of feedback is hardest for me to receive? I would come back to, in the polyamorous relationships, in the power exchange dynamics that I've been in, inconsistency and emotional availability, or lack of, were some of the hardest, right? It's like, because my intention was always there. However, and this I realized much later with the ADHD diagnosis was, what is it when you're out of sight, out of mind? I forget, but that's one of the ADHD things. It's like, if you're not in front of me, you don't exist. And a lot of the feedback, the hardest feedback for me to receive, was the feedback that was about how ADHD was governing me, and I didn't have any understanding of it. So it was like, I felt like I was being blamed for my inability to put two and two together in my brain, and I had no idea the math that was going on up there because of the way my brain processes. And I would feel like a failure. I can go back 4 years, and like, my answers 4 years ago would be wholly different than what they are today, because I wasn't aware of what I wasn't aware of.
Right.
And I didn't see how it was landing, because all I saw was my intention. My intent on being there. My intention was always there, but my ability wasn't. And I think that was the hardest feedback, whenever it was critical about how I was functioning in relationship. And I felt so disempowered because there was nothing I could do about it. It's like, I'm keep a calendar, do this, do that, do that. But it was like,
I think you were doing the best you could with what you knew.
Yeah.
At the time.
And it wasn't enough.
Right.
It wasn't enough, nor did it have to be. So let's step into our between round reflection. All right.
So before moving into the second round, let's pause for a moment, take a breath, and let's let the first set settle. So in one sentence, what did you notice about yourself in that round of questions?
And journal this into your, write this down into your journals. Take a moment and really think about it, because as I'm noticing it in these conversations, is that I sometimes I tend to go back and answer from who I was, and I want to answer from who I am.
Yeah. And that would be the one sentence that I would have, is to say the same thing. And you made me aware of it by saying it, that I have a tendency to want to answer from who I was and not from who I am today. And that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second question would be, or reflection would be, with one word, what are you leaving breakout one with?
I always hate that I have to pick one word. Awareness is the word I want to say.
I want to say relief, because I'm not who I used to be.
Yeah.
And I have to let that be enough. And you guys, let that be enough. You don't have to turn it into a full explanation. Just notice what's surfaced and give yourself grace and forgiveness and permission, man. Like,
Yeah.
here you are. And here you are doing the work. Because a lot of people won't even go this far to see where do I need to change to come back into alignment.
Exactly. All right, so now the second set is about integration, right? Not just seeing how defended you are, but practicing repair. So again, take 3 minutes per question. After we read the question, turn us off, put down your answer, and then come back and listen, and then do that with each question. So the first question in this set is, what would it look like to listen before defending myself? What would I need to do in my body, with my breath, my language, my posture? What would help me stay present?
So, for myself, getting a pause in some situations is not easy. However, if it's feedback, there's a conversation. Feedback is different than confrontation, right? Meaning, Joshua, sit down, let's chat about something real quick, is different than, why did you do that? Right? So
Yeah.
my body's going to respond differently.
Yeah.
Right? Or, hey, Joshua, let's talk about something real quick. This is what happened, and I want to chat with you about it. Well, absolutely. Let's talk about it, because the feeling in me is like I knocked someone down by accident. Oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. Like there's an immediate apology that comes with it. So I think for myself, because I'd also have to listen to it, right? Because being called in, hey, come have a seat, let's talk real quick. Yeah, what's going on? Blah, 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 X, Y, and Z, A, B, C, D.
For me?
Yes, Mama, for you.
So when someone brings me something and I realize that there's something I need to listen to, I do all of these things. If we're sitting, I sit up taller, I take a breath, I get quiet, and I watch that I don't do anything more than the active listening that we've learned to do, right? I make sure that all I do is repeat back what I've heard the person say, that I ask a qualifying question, and that I stay silent. And so my posture gets more erect, my breath gets a little slower and a little deeper, and those things help me stay present so that I can really hear what the person's trying to tell me.
I agree with that. For myself, because doing all this men's work, all of this shit that I've been doing for the last few years now. If I'm on Zoom and we're doing this, I mute my microphone so that I don't interrupt, because it's like I want to hear. Yeah, it's very similar. Sit down, straight up. If I got a pad and paper, let me get it just so I can take notes so I don't interrupt you. Because that's the other thing, is my mind is always throwing words into my brain, right? So it's like I'm seeing patterns, I'm seeing shit out and how I want to respond or things I want to say, but it's like, just write it down. I can channel it all to here so I can stay present. But the active listening part, being mindful of it, I think is what helps me stay present.
Yeah. All right, next question. What repair have I delayed because I didn't know how to face the discomfort? Where have I avoided returning to a conversation? Where have I apologized without changing? Where have I hoped time would replace repair?
I would say with my mom. Or any friendship where something unfavorable happened, something out of character happened, something out of poor choice happened, and there was an agreement with it. There was not agreement with it, and it was like, there's nothing for me to say. The whole, if there's nothing good to say, don't say it at all. Off of judgment, right? And it's like, let me think about that a little more. How would you answer that, Mama?
I know this is one of those ones that asks me to recall something particular, and I always have a hard time doing that. I do have a couple of places where I have friendships where things are not where I want them to be, and I don't know if there's a repair that I've delayed necessarily, but I do have places where I have avoided returning to conversations. I have on occasion apologized without changing my behavior, or I've just said I'm sorry and then I go off and do the same thing again. And I think the where have I hoped time would replace repair is something I may do subconsciously. I think in some ways, I will occasionally fall prey to the idea that if I just let enough time go by, that everything will be okay. And I know better. Like, my experience tells me that that's not how things work. But I do think sometimes there's almost a certain amount of laziness involved with me about that, where I just think, well, if I don't jump through all the hoops to do like the conversations and the repair and all that stuff and just let enough time go by, I'll be like, hey, everything's good.
Yeah. It makes me think of a friendship where the person made a poor investment decision and I didn't agree with it. And I didn't sit down, I didn't talk with them. But ultimately, I got quiet and I put some space in because I didn't want to be involved with the repair, emotional and mental and psychological repair that this person was going to have to go through with the choices that they made. In turn, that I feel like that made me a bad friend. And the repair delayed there is, I'd have to admit that I did that because I didn't agree with their choices. Because I also didn't want to get pulled into what the fuck they had going on.
We had a whole conversation about this the other day, about when you see something that a friend's doing that they really should have feedback about. Right. Have you ever had we've all had friends that get into relationships and you're like, that's the worst person on earth. That relationship is so not good for you. But we all hesitate, or I've hesitated, and I know people hesitate to want to say anything because I'm afraid that you're not ready to hear it. I'm afraid that you won't accept my feedback about it. But then I do you a disservice as a friend because I haven't shown up and given you feedback that I genuinely feel. So that's such a hard one to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you answer, Mama?
I did. All right. What sentence could help me stay present during feedback? Something like, I want to understand, or let me slow down, or I'm listening, or I need a moment, but I'm not leaving, or I can feel myself getting defensive and I want to stay with you. Whatever the phrase would be for you.
What sentence could help me stay present during the feedback? What about you?
What happens for me internally is I go, oh, this is a time for me to listen. Like I tell myself that this is a time not for me to speak, but for me to listen. And so I say something like that to myself. It's almost like a little mantra, like, okay. And that's when, my posture comes up and my breath slows down and I do all the things we just said a minute ago, because I recognize that this is a person who's bringing me feedback or sharing something with me or whatever. And that what I need to do right now is to just listen.
I think telling myself I want to understand. Like whenever we had conflict or misunderstanding, it's like, tell me what you were thinking. Tell me what happened, what went through your mind? Or what did you mean by X? Tone matters. But it's like, I want to understand. Versus I want to understand to blame.
And that's where tone is all the difference.
That's where tone is all the difference.
Right. Tell me what you meant. Tell me what you meant. What did you mean by that?
Yeah. Versus what did you mean? But that's like, I think I try to do that to the best of my ability. Like, I want to understand. I need to understand what happened.
Yeah. I think that it's gotten better from out here.
It always seems like a monster in my brain.
I bet. All right, last question. What would meaningful repair look like beyond saying I'm sorry? What behavior would change? What boundary would be honored? What check-in would happen? What pattern would be interrupted? How would you show someone that you were able to be accountable for the feedback that they gave you?
What would meaningful repair look like beyond them? Change behavior. That's like the fastest one. I'm sorry. I didn't realize the impact that it had. I will do my best to be more aware of it and to avoid it to the best of my ability, because it's not like I'm not going to do something again at some point in the future, right? So I can't set myself up for my own failure and disappointment to say, it'll never happen again. I will do my best to not let it happen again, because maybe it'll come out of left field and maybe I'm still reacting versus responding. And but the change behavior, is the best way for me.
Yeah.
Is the best
I
way.
don't have anything to add to that. That's exactly, it's about change behavior.
Yeah, yeah. So let's review the questions before we close. Month 8, episode 3. The first set of questions is about awareness and orientation. Question number 1. What is my first internal reaction when someone gives me feedback?
2, what defensive pattern do I use most often?
3, where do I confuse being called in with being rejected?
And 4, what kind of feedback is hardest for me to receive?
So that's the first 4 questions. And the in-between round questions, after you complete those 4 questions, in one sentence, what did you notice about yourself in that first round? And the second one is, with one word, what are you leaving it with? All right, the second set of questions, integration and accountability. Number 5, what would it look like to listen before defending myself?
6, what repair have I delayed because I didn't know how to face the discomfort?
Number 7, what sentence could help me stay present during feedback?
And 8, what would meaningful repair look like beyond saying I'm sorry?
These are a really great set of questions. Now, for the people who are watching, we've covered the 4 questions for each section. On Tuesday nights, there's an additional 2, which we don't tell you guys here. And they dive deeper into the topics. And we like to shoot from the hips because sometimes I think answering some of these questions without preparation really changes the relationship with the vulnerability of the answer.
Agreed. And so the net takeaway is that feedback is not always rejection. Sometimes feedback is a doorway back into honesty.
Defensiveness is human, but if defensiveness becomes your pattern, people may stop bringing you the truth.
I don't even think we've talked about that enough, because when people stop bringing you the truth, your connection is less real. And it's not because there's no love or that there's no care, but it's because honesty no longer has a safe place to go.
Yeah. And that's exactly why we practice what we practice inside Conscious Conversations every Tuesday night. A live guided space where you can reflect, speak, you can hear yourself, you can hear others, you can notice patterns, you can practice these questions in real time and stay connected to the work long enough for it to actually change something.
So Conscious Conversations now meets every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. For $30 a month, you get access to that live weekly space, which is a place to reflect, practice, and stay connected to the work.
And for those who want more support, the Integration Circle gives you the Tuesday night conversations, a private WhatsApp group, community, and a monthly live session with us where you can ask questions, process what's coming up, and get support integrating what you're learning.
Also, the video episodes are available on Wednesdays, so you'll have more time and ways to stay connected to the conversation before we meet live on Tuesday. Look, feedback can feel uncomfortable.
But discomfort is not always danger.
Sometimes discomfort is the beginning of repair.
So instead of asking, why are they criticizing me?
Try asking, what are they trying to help me understand?
And can I stay present long enough to repair?
That question can change the future of a relationship.
Next week, we close month 8 with one of the most important questions we can ask in relationship. Am I becoming safer to be honest with?
Do people feel like they can tell me the truth? Or do they have to manage how I'm going to react?
Because impact is not only about what happens when things go well, it's about what happens when honesty gets hard.
And that's where we're going next. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and the work continues inside Conscious Conversations every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks again for being with us.
We'll see you there.
We'll see you soon.
Mama, that photo shoot's in an hour.
All right, let's wrap.